Interestingly, Julia has chosen to sit in the film section tonight. Hi, Julia.
Hi, Julia.
Hi, Julia. You know us from TV. Hi.
Hi.
Julia. God, she's really changed.
She's gross.
Hollywood having a bit of fun with the e-cigarette issue. Now, the United Nations Health Agency is targeting electronic cigarettes in the latest nanny state move, calling for a ban on smoking e-cigarettes indoors. How do they do that? They're not in charge of anywhere, really. In a recent report, the World Health Organization stated that users should be legally requested not to use e-cigarettes indoors, especially where smoking is banned, until vapor is proven not to be not harmful to bystanders and reasonable evidence exists that smoke-free policy enforcement is not undermined. Jeff Sire is a senior fellow with the National Center for Public Policy Research out of New York. He joins me now from that fair city. And Jeff, the UN calling for something to be banned, made illegal, do this, do that. Let's start with that issue before we get to anything about e-cigarettes. Did they become our overlords without me looking? Did all the governments just resign and hand over power to the UN?
Well, actually, many did, Brian. It's good to be back with you. 168 countries are participants in a framework convention on tobacco control, and the World Health Organization is actually part of the UN. The World Health Organization is kind of running the show now, and states that have ratified that countries that have ratified that convention are party to it are going to have to implement the rules put forth by the World Health Organization. That's problematic, and Canada is part of that process.
It's, you know, look, I get that not everyone is going to like e-cigarettes. Not everyone's going to like vaping, as it's called. You're not smoking, you're vaping. But I do know a lot of people who've been helped
Correct.
in quitting smoking by using an e-cigarette. Isn't that worth something?
It's worth a lot, and a growing number, a chorus of public health experts have been saying now that e-cigarettes are the most promising development in helping find ways to help smokers quit. And so I think e-cigarettes are a boon to public health. Yet the nanny state, and we've talked about this on your show before, the nanny state is kind of focused on controlling how we live and not focused on public health. And the World Health Organization, when they came out this week and said that they were concerned about e-cigarettes and are trying to ban their use in public places and ban flavorings and all these other troubling things, the World Health Organization has said now that they want not only to end smoking, but end dependence on nicotine. And that's an important distinction to make. Is, do we want to improve public health? Is that our goal? And that's why we've given public health authorities control over how we live, to have them help us supposedly improve how we live. But now it's not about improving public health and reducing the harm from smoking. It's about reducing dependence on nicotine. And those should be separated out, because nicotine...
What about Nicorette? You know, maybe they don't like this because it reminds people of smoking. What about Nicorette? That has nicotine in it and helps people quit smoking.
That's right. Well, they would say, well, we want people to get off Nicorette within 8 weeks or so. That's problematic as well. The ideology that nicotine addiction is the problem is poor thinking. The rational way to look at this, and I think the public health approach, ought to be, how do we reduce the harm from smoking? How do we help smokers quit? Nicotine isn't the problem. Nicotine is the addictive component. So if we can get people to stop smoking and use a product with nicotine instead, I think that's fantastic news for public health. The World Health Organization doesn't think so.
I think that my experience with this, from people I've known who've used both types of products to quit, is that eventually they get off the cigarette or the replacement, whether it's the gum or the patch or even e-cigarettes. It is a way to break the habit, which can be awful. I mean, we all know people that have struggled a long time to quit smoking. So why this focus then? Is it just an ideology that takes hold of public health officials, the nanny staters, that say, no, we're not controlling enough, we need to control more? Is that it?
I think it is. I think it's part of this new puritanism that we've talked about in the past with soda bans, salt bans, etc. And I think the problem that the activists have is that in some cases, using an e-cigarette looks like smoking, and they say that normalizes smoking. They're worried about the fact that tobacco companies have now bought e-cigarette companies, and they think, well, that's automatically bad. I believe that the private sector has the potential to solve problems. The activists believe that the government ought to be solving problems. It's a very different worldview. So they have become entrenched, even though the science is continuing to show that e-cigarettes help people quit smoking, and they're even more effective, e-cigarettes are, even more effective than the gum and the patch. So the World Health Organization and other public health bodies, this is a critical time. They have a chance now to say we're in favor of public health, and we're going to do something that maybe we're not so comfortable with and promote e-cigarette use as a way to help quit smoking, or they're going to show their true colors, which is an ideologically driven, anti-capitalism, anti-freedom, nanny-state approach. This is a critical time, and lives are at stake.
All right, Jeff, great talking to you as always. We'll chat again soon.